All right, we are live. Guys, buyer and seller activity are at record highs. But why does the market still feel slow? Well, I'm going to do a screen share with you, and I'm going to show you everything you need to know in order to understand what's happening with the Denver real estate market. If you've been following along the journey, welcome back. If you haven't yet, and this is your first video, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We're going to do a video just like this one every Wednesday, explaining exactly what you need to know about the Denver real estate market. And I like to jump straight in. So let's do this thing, guys. I am going to share my screen, dream big, but no, let's look at the real estate market weekly brief, March 18th of 2025. So how we do this, I'm going to read through this with you guys, show you some charts. And at the end, I'm going to wrap all this up by helping you understand as a buyer and seller, what's actually happening with the real estate market. Like, what's the actual truth? You probably read all these headlines and you have an idea, you hear it from a friend or a coworker or dad, mom, and you have maybe a sense of or an idea of what the market's doing, but do you really? And the reality is a lot of what you're going to hear and see is only a very, very small piece to the puzzle. Well, we're going to get down into actually what we're seeing here, what some of my concerns are, and ultimately what you need to know as a buyer and seller. So first, most market indicators remain notably strong, reminiscent of a typical Colorado spring real estate season. I concur. We're having a really, really strong spring season. However, as we read the tea leaves, there's a buyer advantage brewing and sellers should be prepared. Guys, I'm quite concerned. I really am with just that sentence. And I tend to be a little bit more pessimistic than most in regard to what the market's doing. And the reason for that is, guys, like, I'm a licensed agent. I've been for 10 years. And so when I'm advising clients and, articulating what's happening in the market to, potentially insightful information that they're going to use in their decision-making process, I'm going to poke holes in everything I possibly can so that I'm giving the facts and the actual advice of what's actually happening in the market. And guys, yeah, there's a buyer advantage brewing. I'll get to that soon. But let's get back into the article. Buyer and seller activity are both at record highs. Last week, we saw a surge of new listings hitting the market, an equally impressive number of buyers shopping for homes. This has fueled solid contract activity, but sales year to date remain sluggish. What's happening? How could buyer and seller activity be at record highs, but the sales year to date remain sluggish? Weird, and hence the thumbnail. We'll get to that in a second as well. As a result, inventory is on pace to climb to its highest level in 15 years. Wow. Big yellow flag here, guys. And over the next 8 weeks could prompt sellers to begin reducing prices and giving the buyers the upper hand. Given the heightened competition, sellers must stand out more than ever. Pricing strategically and ensuring top-notch property conditions are absolutely key to attracting motivated buyers. Inside the numbers, guys, this is absolutely wild. Last week saw the most showings ever for this time of year. However, with inventory up, each listing averages only 3.3 showings per week, taking about 30.5 showings as opposed to the historical average 18 to 20 to land a contract. Now, what does that mean? What we're saying is, on average, a listing that is for sale in this market is getting 3.3 showings per week. And historically, it takes about 18 showings to 21 showings before you will get a buyer to give you a contract. Well, in today's market, even though we have record amounts of showings, it's taking 30.5 showings on average for all those listings out there to receive an offer. So what that means for you guys is, even though we're at a record high number of showings right here, the market's still feeling a little slow. And we're going to build on this. Buyers are taking their time because strong seller activity is fueling elevated inventory. Last week alone, 1,500 homes were listed, far surpassing the typical weekly averages of the past 5 years. This surge reflects exactly what we anticipated, a pent-up desire among sellers to put their homes on the market. New listings year to date. So as you can see, new listings, 2025, like aside from 2010, we are taking the lead. So that means we have a lot of inventory in today's market. And year to date, contract activity remains solid, ranking as the 4th highest in Denver market history. Absolutely crazy, right? So like showings under contracts, new listings, we're seeing record highs here. So why does the market feel slow? Well, follow along with me. However, these high contract numbers haven't fully translated into closings. In fact, year-to-date closings are the slowest pace in 13 years. How does this even make sense, right? If we have that many buyers in the market and we have that many homes going under contract, what did it say? Year-to-date ranking is the 4th highest in Denver's market, yet we have one of the slowest paced sold properties in the last 13 years. As a result, the surge in new listings, moderate contract activity, and slower closings have driven inventory to elevated levels. Sellers should note that this increased supply will likely lead to price reductions, lower offers, longer days on market, and higher concessions. I'm going to summarize this and then I'll give you guys my take, okay? Overall, the Denver market remains active with plenty of buyer interest and strong contract numbers. Yet the glut of new listings combined with slower closing rates has boosted inventory, putting potential downward pressure on pricing and increasing the need for negotiation. As a result, sellers who want to stand out must focus on competitive pricing and compelling property conditions, while buyers can look forward to more opportunities and greater negotiating leverage in the weeks ahead. All right, so let's get to this. Why do I have some fear here that the buyer advantage is brewing? Well, I have it because of this. We're seeing record amount of showings. And even with this record amount of showings, we're still at the slowest pace of sold homes in 13 years. And sure, we're the 4th highest in Denver market history in terms of how many homes are going under contract. But there's a disconnect in we have a ton of buyers putting homes under contract, but homes aren't selling. And all of this equates to an incredibly high inventory level. Okay. And so for sellers, I'm more concerned for you than I am buyers. Buyers, like, get ready to get a deal, get ready to get a price knocked down, get ready to get concessions paid for. But sellers, guys, like this gap is a gap in how much inventory we had in previous years compared to now. Now, the only reason the market's not crashing, even though we have that much inventory, is because we have record high showings. If we didn't have this record high showings, we would be having a completely different conversation. Just think of it like this. You have to have a supply and demand that offset each other, okay? So if supply goes up, we need demand to go up in order to keep a healthy, balanced, appreciating market. Well, if you have a ton of inventory, you need more showings. Now, here's why I'm concerned, is because if we look back at these charts, you see showing demand typically taper off after about May. And so if we have showing demand taper off and inventory start to increase, that could lead to a really, really advantageous market for buyers and sellers. Well, unfortunately, that is a formula for lower home prices than you might expect. And so guys, even though the market is super hot right now, relatively speaking, I mean, guys, last week I was doing numbers on some of my listings and we went from three showings on average a week to 6+ showings on average a week. Absolutely crazy. Like the market is moving. It is on fire in some respects, but the reality is buyers are taking longer. The reality is inventory's up. And so when you look at the market from that perspective, even though it's on fire relative to, the spring market, it feels slow. It feels sluggish. And there are absolutely deals to be had out there. And because inventory levels are so high, sellers, even with a hot market, I can't express how important it is for you to price strategically and ensure your house is show ready. Guys, with a high level professional, they'll guide you through all of this. And for those of you new to the channel, I've been licensed for 10 years in Colorado. I specialize in folks selling their homes. I specialize in people buying homes, whether you are relocating from out of state, or maybe you're selling your house in state and looking to upgrade, downgrade, move to different areas. I do this for a living. These market reports I do on YouTube, but I really do them so that I am refining my skill set every single week, because the reality is, you guys see from watching these videos, the market changes day by day, week by week, month by month. And so the price that I'll tell you for your home today is going to be different than tomorrow. And same goes for buyers. You guys looking to buy homes, you're coming into Colorado if you're relocating, or maybe already here. And when we talk about what to offer on the house, like your agent better know this stuff, because knowing this stuff puts you in a position of power as a seller or a buyer to take advantage of what the market has to offer today, instead of pricing your listing or buyers offering more than you need to, right? And so sellers, I see it over and over and over again. Sellers overprice and then fall down this slippery slope of price reductions. And by the time they sell, you look at that price and you're like, man, like, what if you had just priced right to begin with? You probably would have got more than you actually did. So very, very important, guys, all this information. And what's great is you don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be a data nerd like myself. You don't have to look into these reports. All you've got to do is call a high-level professional. I would love to serve you. I've been licensed in the Colorado real estate world for 10 years and would love nothing more to support you. So all my information is down below. My number is 303-332-1108. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions on this, or maybe you just have questions about your specific situation. Happy to answer those. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Guys, I can't tell you how much that means to the growth of this channel. It can't happen without you guys subscribing. At minimum, throw a like on this video, comment on the video. Let me know what you're seeing out there in the market, what your concerns, or what maybe you're optimistic about. And we'll catch you on the next one. We do these every Wednesday, live Denver real estate market updates.